I don't know if anybody else is coming in here to. Oh, there's Jessica. Maybe she'll lead.
Hey, sorry.
I was just gonna
Sorry.
get it started. I was like, well, we're all kind of sitting here, but I don't know.
Yeah, so welcome everybody. Sorry about that. We were wrangling a few stragglers. So this is really an open Q&A session for all of you to elevate questions that you have. And Chris, obviously our resident expert, but I think everyone is navigating in a different space. And so really excited to see all of you and would open it up. I know Kevin, Christy are here from our ESD network, Larry as well from 189. Do any of you want to kick it off? And oh, Kim and Mike, hey. So if people don't have like a question on the top of your head, our partners could certainly kick it off. But feel free to jump in. And what's keeping you up at night? Don't all throw it in there at once. uh, Kevin, I'll put you on the spot. As you think about leaders in your region, several who are here, what are some of the things that you're hearing and questions that are arising among you and your colleagues?
Well, I think the biggest thing is where do we start? Do we start at district level with policy, procedures, and those things? Like, is that what we should be thinking about as superintendents? How do we lay the framework so that we can begin to implement in our own districts? Or should we be talking about how we're going to work with our own teachers to provide professional development? One of the things in our region we're wondering about is regionally, because obviously it's going to take a lot of us regionally. Can we get our own AI PLC together just to have some monthly conversations about who's doing what? So for me, honestly, I would be interested in this group, what support do you need, superintendents or assistant soups or whoever's in this room? What support do you need from us so that we can begin to build what you need in your own regions about support? So if I was going to ask a question, like if we could help you in one way, what would it be? What's the first thing you'd like support with? And I see WASA's on here too, great partners in PD. So I think it'd be smart for all of us just to listen to what do you need from us so that we can begin to create the resources you need.
I'll start, Kevin. Kurt Guadagnino, Mount Adams School District. We're a smaller school district. We have about 1,000 students. And like many other school districts in the state of Washington, our administrators are stretched as thin as they can possibly stretch. And we need help from probably a broader perspective. I think regionally, it's a really good idea to talk about what are the key issues that we need, one, to support our teachers, two, from a policy standpoint, to we as superintendents, how do we set up the policies to regulate this? How do we support our teachers? How do we support our administrators, our building leaders to manage it building wise? And then even some conversations on how we take this out to parents and to then offer personal family development to families without having to create all this stuff ourselves. And then bringing in high-level speakers is kind of like our leaders workshop over the summer, our leadership summit, Kevin, something like that, specifically on AI, so that we could do job-alike groups and have conversations, and then have you take the lead on how you could help us develop these things, or you develop them and then we adopt them, just because we don't have the capacity nor the know-how to do so. So that would be very helpful to me.
I'm going to kind of expand on that. You have a very diverse school board in all of our areas. Age, socioeconomic, right? All of the different things. How do we educate and keep them in the appropriate lanes where they are and where they need to be so that we are protected, but really a tool to teach our board about AI where it's not just me doing the regurgitation of the information. And because we're not experts either, right? So are we telling the right information?
Thanks for bringing that up, Kim. So Chris Hagel, question about how have you navigated this with your school board?
Yeah, it's funny because I was trying to decide, should I write this in chat or should I try to speak up? So our board 2 years ago, or when our new superintendent, Creston Barr, came in, she worked with the board and developed our first strategic plan that we've had in almost a decade here in Peninsula. And one of the goals that they came up with in the strategic plan was innovation. They want us to be an innovative school district. And that's kind of given us a lot of leeway on moving forward with this stuff, which is, I know that not all of you have that goal in your strategic plan. Our board actually tried to get a presentation into WASDA for this year, and they missed the due date by a day. So they had planned to do an AI presentation at WASDA and just missed it. So I know they're willing to. We have two of the board members that are really interested in AI, both in their own work and otherwise. So we've had that. We've been fortunate, which I know is not the case in every place, to have a strategic plan goal around innovation, which has allowed us to move forward with a lot of this quickly. And when I talked about when I talked about how we brought English teachers together in January, we actually had a board member that came that day back in January, and she came and sat down with teachers in the classroom to see what kind of conversations we were having. And so I don't know, not everybody has that, but if you do, bring them in and have those conversations with the teachers. Let them hear from the teachers, because our teachers really moved pretty quickly from a lot of fear to, okay, well, what do we need to look at differently? I would say within 5 or 10 minutes of having that conversation, their minds started thinking a little differently, and having a board member sit there and listen to that was really helpful as well.
How about you, Elise? I know you're thinking, I can see it. What are you thinking from your point of view?
Well, I'm leading in a very, very small, very, very conservative area. And with that being said, I still want to ensure that, our students have access to innovative ideas and that are still able to engage on an AI platform, because that's what the job market's going to require of them. And so I want to do that in a way that's using best practices. And right now I'm kind of racking my brain thinking about, where do you start? What truly is a best practice? What's the standard? What are we all going for? And, a few years back, it was the technology push was all around making sure every student's one-to-one and making sure everyone has access to technology. And then we talked about, don't let your classrooms be a flipped classroom where the technology is doing the teaching, use it as a tool. So for me, I would be really interested in digging into, what does that teaching and learning piece look like? And what is the outcome? What is the goal we want for every child as they leave our systems? Is it to be fluid with AI? Is it to be fluid in computer sciences? Like, what would that be? And then what are the best practices to go with that? I think that's the step that I'm looking at right now.
So I've heard both Kim and Elise talk about their concerns around conservative communities and/or board members. So are others hearing that too, that is there some political opposition to using AI? I haven't heard that, but maybe there is. Is that what you guys are seeing?
I certainly don't think it's an opposition. I just think that they may not be aware of it, that it is even going on, right? And I think the other thing that Elise said is letting them know that I write at a certain grade level and a certain lexile level. And if I need to lower that lexile level, I can take what I wrote and say, please turn this into a sixth grade reading level. And I don't have to go through and change it all. So it can be a benefit to me, to my career, not necessarily writing the perfect Romeo and Juliet essay that everybody knows you didn't write yourself.
So I think the board is, if we do have concerns in the board with board members, they're just reflecting just exactly what we're experiencing with our staff. So, everyone's just in a different spot on this. Some are pretty knowledgeable. Some people have a good comfort level. There's a lot of concerns about learning, for kids, and the feeling that you're, it's like you're plagiarizing. So I think it's just a reflection of our staff. Our staff have these same concerns, thoughts, unknowns, discomfort with the idea of it.
Chris, can you speak to how your leadership team has threaded that needle? As obviously it's part of a strategic plan goal, but there is that continuum of comfort and reticence, and how have you done that with your staff?
Yeah, while we have a district philosophy or principles and beliefs, we haven't done a you must use it type of thing yet. One of the resources I shared was that teachai.org toolkit. That's a really good one for some simple, it has sample letters to parents, or it has simple information for teachers. I would say, look at that one. That can help teachers a lot. We're having, I was in an email thread last week with English teachers, and there was still this huge spectrum of, I'm using it with my 12th grade students. Can I use it with my 9th grade, 11th grade students? And then another teacher is like, I don't even understand what words you're saying right now. I've never heard of ChatGPT before in my life. And so, even in our district where we do have people running far ahead, we still have teachers that are, pretty far behind. Another thing I would say is I did a webinar for rural Texas superintendents last week. Kind of with a lot of the same worry that it sounds like some of you are from really small districts. They were really pushing on, we just don't want our kids left behind. We don't want the big city schools to be, jumping so far ahead. We want to make sure that our kids in our small towns still have the exact same access and resources and knowledge and skills that the big city kids have. And so, that might be a good way to push on that a little bit in your districts, because that did, that with those people in Texas, that was really resonating with them is, we want our kids to have that same access.
I would be curious to know what OSPI has in mind, because Chris just said within the next year, you're going to see some fairly robust framing from OSPI around AI. So I'd like to know what that looks like, so I can make sure that I'm positioning my district and my staff and students for that, and board. I also would wonder what our legislators are thinking about this. Are they processing any sort of mandates or supports or bumpers or all those kinds of things? And would that constitute unfunded mandates as we think about training for AI? I don't have any answers to any of those questions, but there you go.
Well, Mary, I think OSPI is also there. Kevin mentioned the fire being lit on all of us, and I do think that as partners in this space, we're committed to being around the table, helping make sure all of you are aware of that. What I do know is, Chris mentioned it, the standards revision process, the learning standards, they're looking at what does it look like to integrate into AI and weave it through learning standards. And then they are convening a small advisory committee that will, I think they're hoping to help them create that framework as well.
Well, I don't mean to be overly dramatic, but the last time we all went through something where we were trying to create and fly and build a ship while we were flying was COVID and our reactions and responses to it. So I would just, from that, we learned a lot about each other and about how we do the work together. We also learned a lot about communication. So this particular get together today is very helpful. And I would encourage us to have additional priorities around making sure that we get communication encouragement also. To keep moving forward and to know what everybody else is doing. I did love the idea of an ESD regional cohort. Love that.
So Tim Payne talked about in the chat, the word our board used was control. How can we control this, and how do we control the uncontrollable? It's like, that's why we got to get smarter. We don't know how to control it. It's just almost impossible at this point, right? going to take some time to think through it. I do see that Joe Biden's going to do an executive order about to guide the development of artificial intelligence. He had a press conference that might have been today. So it'll be interesting to see what they're going to do. I'm sure it's going to regulate the industry. I don't think it's going to regulate what you do in Washougal, but maybe it'll trickle down to us, huh?
There was a very brief note in it this morning. I just read their pre-release of it about personalized learning tutors for students, but that was kind of the only topic about education that was even in it. All of the rest of it really is ensuring that AI doesn't create bioweapons and all of these other sort of bad things that they're worried about it creating and those kind of things. So,
Kevin, that's where I think it's important to get in front of the fear and ignorance and misinformation that's out there, at least for our boards. So to have some clear direction and conversation for superintendents. That's why I think the regional conference idea is a good idea, because then you could have breakout Java-like sessions. And it was mentioned here talking about parents. That's the principal's job, talking about teaching and learning on the curriculum and standard side. I would really encourage that probably sooner than later.
Who unheard voices? Who hasn't shared that would like to share something?
So Kevin, I'll share a little bit more. I've said some stuff.
Go ahead, Tim, and then we'll go to Brad. Tim, then Brad.
I have a daughter who's a brand new teacher, and my brand new teacher daughter, she just thinks this is the best thing since sliced bread. And then I have my wife, who's a 34-year teacher, who's like, I'm not sure what to do with this thing. And so you have this bandwidth. You have younger people who are already digital savvy. They're jumping on forums nationally, internationally. They've figured it out, a lot of stuff out really well, to how to make this a tool. She doesn't fear it. My wife maybe fears it a bit more. And so the other thing we did at eFreight I thought was really interesting is we started looking at, well, what are all the non-educational uses? And it got them pretty comfortable with that thing. And then they were able to open up, not out of fear, but in this other area, from recipes to planning a trip to all these other things. And it gave them a space to function in, not out of fear, but out of, hey, this is pretty cool. And so what could I do? And so that was one of the strategy places we started at. After we got past that board control word, we went to, well, we're not banning the uncontrollable here at Ephrata School District. We're going to figure out how to make this thing tick.
Brad?
I guess I'm just hoping to see a concerted effort out of all professional development providers that this is a, wide-ranging topic at every conference, both in our ESD, but statewide at summer conferences and those pieces, so that whoever from our district is, engaging in our ESD or statewide has opportunities, because, even our central office level, if, our people aren't particularly clued into this, I want them to see and have opportunities wherever they go. Even I'm thinking of things like Wabi, where it's a bilingual education. I think AI can have a huge role in that. So hopefully the folks going there are getting a chance to hook in and see the possibilities, not just at the big.
Welcome back, everyone. Hopefully you were able to get to the resources and you were able to start the conversation. That Padlet really is geared initially for those first four breakout sessions that we have listed there, A, B, C, and D. E, F, and G, we realized once our attendance escalated significantly, we needed to add some more breakout sessions. So E, F, and G have been a little bit more of an interactive sessions, but we will still provide the slides and resources after this session is over. So think about the next session that you'd like to go to. That Padlet is back in the bottom area again. All right, and if you want to go ahead and jump to your second breakout session,
Welcome back, a couple of you. Thanks for joining. And thanks to the new folks who are joining. So this session, I'm gonna give it maybe just another couple seconds. It looks like people are coming and going.
Jessica, I actually got invited into this one on my screen, so it was kind of the only one for me to click. So
can you leave and go back out?
I'm okay to stay here. I
okay,
enjoy.
well, yeah, you're welcome to stay.
You know, I don't get to see Kevin every day, so this works out pretty good for me.
And Heather, that might have been the case for you too. Yeah, so feel free like to go back out and pick your next adventure if you want. So for those of you who weren't in the first round, this is an open Q&A. So we haven't pre-populated any questions for you. Chris Hagel is here to share and reinforce some resources if that comes up and makes sense. And I did want to introduce in a couple of our regional leaders. So Christy Hoffines, I should have introduced Christy before. Kevin Chase and Linda McKay and Mike Nerland are here. And they're in several different ESD regions. And so they're also navigating this space with you. And so I will open it up to all of you to just raise questions that you have. Doesn't matter. This is a safe place wherever you are on the continuum. What's keeping you up at night? What sorts of top of mind questions do you have as you're navigating this as a district leader? And I will invite my friend Kevin to join. Kevin, do you want to tee it off? I know you need to run here in a second. You want to tee it off with a few things you're hearing from your region?
Well, again, everybody in my region doesn't know enough to be dangerous yet. But we do know that the kids will be out there way ahead of us before we are. So we have to learn more. We have to figure out how we're going to work with students to be able to give them guidance. I know our teachers need help in what kinds of programs make the most sense for them. And then at the superintendent level, they're wondering about how we're going to educate their school boards, how we're going to educate their own systems with policy and procedure. And then again, just to learn. I think everybody wants to get together and learn and talk about it. I'll go back to like my original thing when I first talked about how this, I think, is going to change the landscape of everybody's lives. I kind of think of it this way. Back in the day when people learned to farm, we had less people that had to go hunt and gather. And honestly, I think AI is going to open up a bunch of different time. So what is it we're going to do with the time that AI is saving us? What'll be the shift in the work? I think in computer science, like right now, we're teaching them the code, right? Oh, you're going to learn Python, you're going to code. But let's be honest, AI is going to do all the coding for us. So we got to figure out what is it those kids are going to be doing besides coding. So for me, it's like, how do we get the policy in place? How do we start educating people about what AI is and what the role could be in education to take some of the fear out of it for them? And then again, I think it's important that we start green lighting our teachers to learn how to use it and use it effectively and give them the support necessary to do it. That's what I'm hearing from the soups in my region. How about anybody else? Heather, you were in the last session. What are you hearing over there? Sorry, I caught you eating. My mistake. Sorry. Or Steve, you can jump in. Either of you. Just like, what are you guys hearing?
I'll jump in. Really, in our region, Okanagan, our teachers got together last spring, had a kind of a professional development day around it to talk about it. I think most of us see it as just another tool. And so for us, there's not a real big fear other than Skynet, of course, right? But I think it's just another tool. Our teachers, I think, have to get to know their students even more so now, because they need to understand what's really from that student and what's been generated from AI. But I think if you get to know your students enough, they're going to be able to do that. You just have to have that relationship with students.
Chris,
So
go ahead, Heather.
We have, like in my superintendent group, which is Grays Harbor, Pacific County out on the coast, nobody's really using AI out here. But I went to the school public relations conference last week, and we had someone speak to us from Alberta, I think, and she was all about AI. And like, as I'm sitting in her session, I paid the $20 a month for ChatGPT 4. I see the advantages of it. I think that teachers aren't even caught up yet. Like, I think that AI is going really quickly, and our teachers aren't there yet. They don't even know how to use it. Like, just today, I'm like, I need a vote. Next week's the election. Please went into ChatGPT, hit on Dolly, and had it make me a little cute thing for our Facebook page, right? Like, oh, take out the text. I want to say county school instead of Ocosta because I spelled it wrong, right? Like, so fast. And I've started using it all the time for other things, but I don't think teachers are there yet. And then, of course, there's the limitations. Like, oh, if you're using 3, you're only going to get things up through 2021. Like, there's some oldness to it. So, but I don't think teachers know where to start. Some teachers, like, I was like, yes, and I'm a superintendent. It's okay if I use it, right? Because I have to formulate an email to go out district-wide. I want it to sound that way. But of course, I can put it in, but I just don't think people know yet. I don't think they realize the power of AI. And I don't think teachers need to know how can they use it with students and in their own like planning. Like, I could see myself using it all the time as a teacher. So I think that we've got to bring them along.
Chris, can you speak to those 2 prongs? There's the in the chat talking about like where to start from a policy perspective, and then where to start for eager teachers, and what might be a good like toe in the water in those 2 different places. And Kevin, if you have to go, you can go.
Yeah, I do. I have a WSIPSI meeting started 10 minutes ago, so I do have a jet. Thanks, everybody. We do appreciate you, but the whole thing is we got to do it together. We're going to communicate, share, and find the best tools and get our teachers and kids on the right path.
Yeah, so as for policies, I kind of put this in the chat, and this is something that I know tech directors across the state and across the country have been talking about for months now, is like, is it the right time to have an actual board approved policy, that goes through the formal process around AI? Do you add it to your acceptable use policy, or do you do something like we did where we're like, it's moving so fast, I don't know what to do right now, but we want to do something. And so that's why we came out with, this is what we currently believe as far as policy. And so, I mean, you can go a couple different ways. I think Edmonds School District just did either an actual policy or an adoption or a change to their acceptable use policy into 2022, I think about 2 to 3 weeks ago. So that is one example in the state of somebody that's moving that direction. We're stuck with principles and beliefs. As for where to get teachers started, I think it was in the last breakout where somebody had mentioned, playing around with the chatbots a little bit and just do things that have nothing to do with school first to just understand them. Like, build me a recipe for this, or a meal plan for the next week, or a workout plan. And that's actually how we started with our teachers last spring, was to do just that. We have this little step-by-step activity where you do that and then get better and ask other questions. There's so many other ways though too. Like, if you don't want to get engaged with some of the chatbots that are out there right now, there are tools that are embedding this, and this is where we're going to see so much more of. Meeting with our teachers that are working in our AI action research team this morning, a lot of them started playing with magicschool.ai. So if you haven't seen that, like, it's amazing the amount of things that are pre-built, and that's where it kind of takes away the whole having to learn how to prompt and write prompts. And it like building out an interface for you. So I was trying to see if I had it close to me. Magic School will do lesson plans. It will do there's like 70 different things that scroll down the screen. If you haven't seen it, take a look at it. Another one that's much like that, where it takes all of this guesswork out, is we have some teachers working with a company called Class Companion. And Class Companion is mostly geared towards like AP Humanities, but it's built a wrapper around some of this AI technology to provide students feedback and to offer them a writing partner side by side, where the teacher still gets to see all the work that's happening back and forth, but the students are able to use AI to help them become a better writer. So some of those tools like that are an easy way to get started. One of the things that somebody brought up like right at the end of last time that I'm really pushing on here, and I think people miss a lot, is just some of the operational efficiencies you can get in a school district utilizing some of these AI tools. Like I've been working a lot with our head of HR, and I'm like, do you understand how easy it is to get job descriptions, to get screening rubrics, to get interview questions? Like, it's simple. You dump some of this stuff in, it'll give you everything you need back out. You don't have to do a bunch of work. So there's a ton of operational efficiencies too, which I would encourage you to take a look at from a district leadership perspective.
Julie put a question in the chat, Chris, about the accuracy of outputs. You want to share your question or reflect on that?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Julie. I'm a digital learning specialist in Shoreline, just north of Seattle. And we actually went to a Microsoft meeting about a walled garden kind of generative AI space. So we've been thinking about that. But my husband was playing around, and he's a software engineer, and he said it's pretty good. It's like, but it's about 80% accurate. And so been talking about the idea of you need expertise to be able to look at the output of AI and know where it's wrong. And I was talking to the Microsoft person and saying, how do we build the expertise to be able to analyze and evaluate the output well, and that novices will tend to just grab and go. And so it's a skill set, I think, for our students that we need to build, but also as at any level, any of us using it, if you're using it in an area where you have expertise, I think it's phenomenal. But if you're using it in an area where you lack expertise, that's where it feels a little bit shaky.
Yeah, that's one of those things that I struggle to figure out how to word it right. But like something that you need an exact answer for, it's still not a great tool for that. Like, if you can get 80% of the way there, that's great. Like if it's going to write something for me and it's 80% of the way there, and I go in and edit it and make sure it's right, then yeah, it's a great tool for that. There are examples I have of, I study computer science too. So I understand, and yes, I could go back. I haven't written code in years, but I could go back and figure it out myself, or I can ask it and know that if it does work, then that's probably good enough. That's not something I would want to do if I were learning coding though, but I have done work and I would love to use it to help me figure out what I did wrong. So it's a tricky question right now. It's one that I think that's where we're going to start to struggle a little bit more, is figuring out how to answer that question.
Thanks.
Chris,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Heather. Well, real quick, I know people like my English teacher, they're going to write things. And so I was listening to NPR one day and Saul Kahn was on there, and he's developed Conmingo, which I put in the chat. And it's so the kids have to show process versus just an output. So I haven't had a chance to really look at, but like that's the only concern my English teacher has. He hasn't thought about any of the other possibilities, just they're going to write an essay with it. So I appreciate that Saul Kahn kind of got ahead of it, or trying to get ahead of it a little bit with having kids show process versus just an output. So this is actually through OpenAI. That's the article that I linked. And they were going to do some pilots for free for schools. So for me, it was like, it's a way to start the AI conversation without saying, yeah, just let them use it carte blanche, was to look at what SolCon had started.
Yeah, we've been trying to get them to let us into that program for months. Nobody seems to call us back. Yeah, we were actually having that conversation this morning with teachers too. And one of the things that one of our high school teams, we have 2 comprehensive high schools, and one of them is a little bit farther along, but the other one's not far behind. But they had started having kids cite their conversations with ChatGPT as part of turning in the assignments. So then the teachers can actually, because you can share your conversation out in ChatGPT. That allowed the teachers to really be able to see, all right, what is the thought that the student put into this? What is the learning that it looks like are they comprehending it and they're just asking questions, or are they just really just letting this thing figure it out for me? And so that's been a huge benefit for them as far as grading work is, yes, you can use ChatGPT. You're probably going to use ChatGPT. If you're going to do it though, I want to see what you were thinking while you were doing it and the thought process that went into your work when you did that. So.
Thanks for that, Chris. I was just going to ask, what kind of input or what types of concerns did you hear from parents, or are they just that much further behind than the rest of us?
There are very few parents that have reached out. We also banned cell phones this summer, and a lot more parents reached out about that. Then, yeah, we're in a weird place where we're embracing AI and moving forward, but we also banned cell phones out of the classroom. So I've heard a lot more about that this summer than AI, or this year. And that's going really well, by the way. So if you're ever interested in doing that and moving forward with that, that's an interesting plan. Yeah, I've had very few. We had back in March when the article came out in the local Gig Harbor paper around teachers that are using ChatGPT. We had a few parents reach out then. And it's more of back in that point, it was more of the generalized sci-fi fear of AI taking over the world than it was like what's actually happening right now. And so we haven't seen a huge push this actual school year. It was more back March, April, kind of people worried about what AI was going to do to society than it was to what we were doing in schools. So we haven't heard much there.
Chris, what have you done with the age restrictions on the various AI tools and parent permission?
So last year we made every single kid have a parent permission form that we were using this. And we got like 98% of them signed them. So it was okay. This year we've opened up a little bit more and allowing teachers that are using it in their classrooms with kids 13 and over to do it without parent permission. We still require every single kid under 13, if they're going to use it in class, to do it with parent permission forms. So that was part of the work this morning, was creating a new standardized parent permission form, explanation letters, kind of based off of the teachai.org toolkit. And we're going to adapt that a little bit to our own district, and then send that out as letters to parents and have parents sign off before their kids get access.
Do you think that will initiate more parent involvement? And
I would assume so. Yeah.
So how about others? Steve, Chris, Tim, Steve Schreiner. Great to see you, Steve Schreiner. Questions you have, reflections as you're just listening to this conversation that you'd like to weigh in with? Linda and Mike, you too.
I think that efficiency conversation is a big conversation. Like I said in the first breakout session, my brand new teacher daughter, who's 23 years old and thinks this is the best thing that ever happened. She teaches ELL, and her ability to take a middle school lesson, take the Washington State standards, write that lesson plan, and then have that thing turn around and do it at a 5th, 6th grade reading level and do all of her reading levels. She does that whole thing in 1 hour, and she couldn't do that in several days. And so I like that concept. It gave me some good vocabulary there about, grab and go versus expertise versus time saved versus what are you trying to do with it? I don't know how much we ask that question. What are you really trying to do with it? We're just kind of doing stuff. And so this has been really helpful for me. So Jessica, as I said before, let's keep it up. As Kevin said too, it's the collaboration and the conversations, which are really good. And I think we do have to look at the other end of the spectrum of those people who don't know what to do with it. It probably causes some people to retire because they're afraid of it.
But that's not why you're retiring, Tim.
Might be part of why my wife is. We have both ends, as we said in our house, we have both ends of the spectrum. My youngest daughter knows exactly what to do with it, and Sheila's not sure. But kindergarten, she has to worry about it too much in terms of being out in front of kids. My youngest daughter is not even worried about being out in front of the kids. She's trying to figure out how to leverage what kids are going to do with it. And so it's a
Welcome back, everyone. I know people were probably cut off mid-sentence. Appreciate all of you engaging in the sessions, and just a reminder, we'll be getting the materials out to all of you from all the sessions after this. I'd like to introduce and welcome our ed tech. So in the AESD network, you met Molly, who's a co-lead with our computer science team, and we have Travis Rush, most recently out of the Eatonville School District, is joining us to take us through the next portion of our last few minutes together. Travis, it's yours.
Thank you very much, and welcome everybody, and thank you for coming this afternoon and early afternoon. Appreciate you all being here. Again, the Padlet that is available to you will be available throughout the school year as we continue on to our next few sessions. So if you have needs or resources you'd like to add or come back and review, please do so. You will also be getting a link here in a minute for the a Google form to give feedback that will help inform our next session. It's very important feedback, that cycle, so we can be on the edge of what you need and being sure to help you in that manner. There's a plethora of resources for you to navigate through, both at the state and the national level. It's important to understand that we will be taking those resources and consolidating them together as a network to make a hub for you. Okay. As we wrap up today, I'd like to take a moment to share with you all the events that are happening around AI at this moment. And you can find those primarily right now at the PD Enroller location and on the AESD website. When you go to the PD Enroller, if you use the AI tag when you're typing or Chat GPT, you will see a mix of resources that pop up for you to go ahead and audible in. We have provided that as an opportunity to narrow down those resources. You may also reach out to your regional ESD and contact one of us, the ESD ed techs or the computer science leads, and we'll be happy to specialize in creating a customized need for you. Each ESD and each school district may be in a different location in regards to AI as far as their main needs and trainings at this time. So do not hesitate to reach out. We'll the slide deck, the videos, and each of the breakout likes as well for you to be able to use as a resource. I really hope that we will be seeing you again in our next session, and that as you fill out that Google form, that we can use that to utilize or to provide what tools you need for the next session as well. So please, again, don't hesitate to reach out to myself and ask questions, and we'll be sure to make sure we all get going in the right direction and being a lead in AI across the state. Jessica.
All right, Travis, can you advance the slide just to I put the link to the survey. So we wanted to give you time in these last few minutes to give us your 2 cents. And I'll just close and advance to the next one. Our next event is in January, the end of January. We'll get a link for registration. We will have you register again just so we can have a good count at who all's coming and be prepared for you. And so we'll get those out to you shortly. And I'll just reiterate what a couple of folks in the session I was in said, is that this is all about mindset. And we are committed to supporting you with our colleagues and other associations with OSPI. Someone likened this to COVID, and I would say that it's a different kind of opportunity we have, not as bad, hopefully, as a global pandemic. And so really thinking about how do we all come together, regardless of where we are on the continuum of navigating AI, to support our educators and our leaders wherever we are, and to lift up the practices that you all are putting in place, however big or small it may feel. So again, I want to share with you these events, more information to come. We are in every region. I think to an extent, our superintendents will be asking you, how do you want to engage regionally? What sessions at the state level do you want to see through our partner organizations in statewide conferences? And then in these two upcoming sessions, we'll be customizing those and also wanting to share, have opportunities to share. So the next slide is just, again, contact information. We'll be getting you this, so you'll have that contact information for our leads in the regions. You should all, I know you all have your ESD superintendents on auto dial, hopefully. But again, appreciate your time and appreciate Bree and Taryn. I know you're here in the room and some of your team as well. Appreciate the work of our state partners in navigating the standards review and revision, but also helping as listeners and being thoughtful about the framework that OSPI will be building in support of districts. So the name of the game is, we're really excited to have you here today, have some opportunities on your calendars in the future. And just know you can reach out to any of us at any time with questions you have, and we will do our best to support you wherever you are on the journey. So with that, I will close it. It's great to see all of you, so many familiar faces, and thank you for your time and attention this afternoon. Have a great day.